The island of South Caicos, the entirety of TCI, and many islands in the Caribbean rely heavily on lobsters for income. This has resulted in a variety of fishing regulations, dictating how they are fished and which ones are harvested. To ease a fisher's job, the Department of Environmental and Coastal Resources put casitas, or lobster condos, into the water to attract and gather lobsters to be fished. However, casitas have been banned in other places like Florida because their known effect on lobsters and the ecosystems that they're placed in isn't fully known. With our project, we wanted to look at how the lobsters in South Caicos are doing a year after the casitas were placed. A typical day of data collection starts with us gathering our gear and heading over to the site. Once we dive in, we take a visual survey and make a note of predators and environmental conditions. Then each casita is turned over one by one. We do our best hand-catching each lobster, but sometimes they are quick on their feet. Once caught, each lobster is put into a designated net bag, which we take up to the boat after surveying all the casitas.
On the boat, we put the lobsters into a bucket of seawater, then take their measurements one by one. First, we measure their carapace length and total weight. We record sex, maturity, molting phase, and any previous damage. Then we put a zip tie on their antenna that is color-coded by casita site. Once we have the data collected, the lobsters are safely released back into the water. We finish off with a fun ride back to the center. Looking at the class distribution of lobsters, we had 3 findings showing the fishing of legal-sized adults compared to juveniles, specifically in the open season. First, overall, we found more juveniles than adults. We also found more juveniles than adults in the open season. And lastly, we found more adults in the closed season compared to the open season.
This is an analysis done using historical landing data from 2004 to 2017. As it turns out, every maturity class of female was significantly smaller in the casitas than in historic landing data. This could partially be because different methods were used to collect historic and current data, but the significance of these results indicates that current female lobster populations in the casitas are smaller, possibly due to selective fishing pressure for larger lobster, declines in lobster sizes across the Caribbean, or the conditions in the casitas themselves.
To analyze evidence of spillover effect from the East Harbor Lobster and Conch Reserve, data from the open and closed fishing seasons were separated. Distance of the casitas from the reserve was measured and mean abundance of spiny lobsters at each casita site was calculated. For the open season, the relationship between distance and mean abundance was nearly linear. However, for the closed season, the trend slightly increases. This slight increase could indicate that as distance from the reserve increases, mean abundance of spiny lobsters also increases. This lack of strong relationship shows we are not seeing evidence of spillover from the reserve, meaning the MPA may not be conducive for spiny lobsters to spill over into surrounding areas.
We looked at a lot of different things about lobsters in the casitas in South Caicos: the distribution of males and females, adults and juveniles, their size and sexual maturity, their behavior, and the way that they move between casitas and the nearby marine reserve. We found that adults are getting fished more than juveniles, that overall lobster size may be decreasing due to larger individuals being fished, and that the East Harbor Lobster and Conch Reserve does not seem to impact lobster abundance in casitas. Future research should include more long-term studies and studies on a greater geographic area to learn how to best manage the lovely lobsters of South Caicos.
Go back.